Welcome to Lesson 15.4, Prompt Engineering focusing on context and constraint. Building on the persona technique from our previous lesson, we now add two additional layers that dramatically improve AI output quality. Personas tell AI who to be. Context tells AI what it needs to know. Constraints tell AI what rules to follow. Together, these three elements form a comprehensive prompting approach that produces targeted, useful results. Without adequate context, AI must guess about your situation, your needs, and your purpose. These guesses are often wrong, producing generic output that misses what you actually need. Providing relevant context enables the AI to tailor its response to your specific circumstances. Without explicit constraints, AI decides for itself how to approach your request. It might produce output too long or too short, too formal or too casual, too technical or too simple. Explicit constraints guide the AI toward output that matches your actual requirements. This lesson introduces the rhetorical prompting method, a structured approach to providing context and constraints that ensures you communicate everything the AI needs to perform well. We will explore how to provide rich context, craft effective constraints, and combine these elements with personas for maximum impact. By the end of this lesson, you will have a complete framework for constructing prompts that consistently produce useful results. The rhetorical prompting method organizes prompt construction around 5 essential questions. Answering these questions thoroughly produces prompts that guide AI toward useful outputs. Who are you addresses the persona dimension we covered in our previous lesson. This establishes the role, perspective, and expertise the AI should embody. The persona shapes tone, vocabulary, and priorities throughout the response. What are you writing specifies the format of the desired output. Is it a needs statement, a budget justification, a letter of inquiry, an email? Different formats have different conventions. Specifying format helps AI apply appropriate structural patterns. Who is the audience identifies who will read or receive the output. Foundation program officers read differently than community members. Technical reviewers read differently than board members. Knowing the audience shapes how content is presented. What is the goal clarifies the purpose you want the output to achieve. Do you want to persuade, inform, analyze, request? Different purposes require different approaches. The goal orients the AI toward producing output that serves your actual intent. What are the rules establishes constraints the AI must follow? Word limits, tone requirements, elements to include or exclude, and other parameters bound the response. Constraints prevent the AI from wandering in unhelpful directions. A prompt that addresses all 5 questions gives the AI everything it needs to produce targeted, useful output. Incomplete prompts leave the AI guessing, which produces inferior results. Understanding why context matters helps you invest appropriately in providing it. Context is not optional decoration, it is essential fuel for useful AI output. AI does not know your specific situation unless you tell it. It does not know your organization, your funder, your program, your community, or your goals. It operates from general patterns learned during training, which may or may not apply to your circumstances. Without context, responses are necessarily generic. Context enables tailored rather than generic responses by giving the AI specific information to work with. When you explain that your funder prioritizes community engagement, the AI can emphasize community engagement. When you describe your rural service area, the AI can address rural considerations. Tailoring requires the information that enables it. More relevant context produces more relevant output following a direct relationship. Sparse context produces loose alignment with your needs. Rich context produces tight alignment. The more you tell the AI about what matters for your specific purpose, the better it can serve that purpose. Context substitutes for the understanding AI lacks because these systems do not actually understand your situation. They process patterns in text. When you provide context, you essentially tell the AI which patterns to emphasize. Context compensates for the lack of genuine comprehension. Providing context is an investment that pays dividends because time spent crafting contextual prompts saves time revising misaligned outputs. The upfront investment produces downstream efficiency. Investing in context is investing in output quality. Different types of context serve different purposes in your prompts. Understanding these categories helps you provide comprehensive context systematically. Task context explains what you are trying to accomplish. Why are you making this request? What will you do with the output? How does this fit into your larger work? Task context helps AI understand the purpose behind your request, enabling better alignment with your actual needs. Organizational context describes your organization and its mission. What does your organization do? Who do you serve? What are your values and approach? Organizational context helps AI produce output that sounds like it comes from your organization rather than from a generic template. Funder context provides information about the funder you are approaching. What are their stated priorities? What do they fund? What have they funded previously? Funder context helps AI align output with funder interests, improving strategic fit and resonance. Content context supplies existing text or materials that the AI should reference or work with. If you want editing help, provide the text to edit. If you want alignment with guidelines, provide the guidelines. Content context gives the AI concrete material to engage with. Situational context covers relevant circumstances that should shape the output. Deadlines, word limits, specific requirements, political sensitivities, or other factors might affect what you need. Situational context ensures the output fits your actual circumstances. Providing all relevant context types produces prompts that enable excellent AI performance. Providing effective context requires deliberate attention to what information will most improve AI output. These principles guide effective context provision. Be specific rather than vague in your descriptions. We serve underserved populations is vague. We serve low-income families in rural Appalachian communities who face significant healthcare access barriers is specific. Specificity enables targeted responses. Vagueness produces generic responses. Include relevant details that shape how the response should be constructed. If the funder emphasizes measurable outcomes, mention that. If your organization values community voice, say so. If the application has unusual requirements, explain them. Relevant details orient the AI appropriately. Paste actual materials when available rather than summarizing. If you want help with a proposal section, paste the draft. If you want alignment with funder guidelines, paste the guidelines. If you want to reference your organization's language, paste examples. Actual materials provide richer context than descriptions. Prioritize information that affects output quality over information that does not. Not everything about your situation matters for every request. Focus context on information that will actually shape how the AI should respond. Relevant context improves output. Irrelevant context just adds length. Update context as situations change because static context becomes outdated. If your organization's focus shifts, if funder priorities evolve, if new requirements emerge, update the context you provide. Current context produces currently relevant output. Constraints are rules and boundaries you establish to shape AI output. Understanding constraints helps you use them effectively to get what you actually need. Rules and boundaries that shape AI output define what the response should and should not include, how it should be structured, what characteristics it should have. Constraints narrow the space of possible outputs toward the specific output you want. Direct AI toward specific types of responses by excluding approaches that would not serve your purposes. Without constraints, AI might produce output that is technically responsive but practically useless. Constraints channel AI effort toward useful directions. Prevent common AI tendencies you want to avoid through explicit prohibition. AI tends toward verbosity, constrain length. AI tends toward hedging, constrain confidence level. AI tends toward generic language, constrain toward specific terminology. Knowing common AI tendencies helps you constrain against them. Ensure output meets your actual requirements by making those requirements explicit. If the application requires specific sections, constrain output to include them. If style guidelines apply, constrain output to follow them. Requirements that remain implicit may be ignored. Requirements made explicit get addressed. Transform open-ended tasks into bounded ones so the AI knows what success looks like. Open-ended prompts like "help me improve this" lack clear direction. Bounded prompts like identify 3 specific weaknesses and suggest concrete improvements for each establish clear deliverables. Boundaries enable focused performance. Different types of constraints address different dimensions of AI output. Understanding these categories helps you constrain comprehensively. Length constraints specify how much output you want. This might be word count, page length, paragraph number, or other measures. Length constraints prevent AI from producing far more or far less than you need. Example, keep the response under 300 words. Format constraints specify how output should be structured. Should it use points or flowing prose? Should it follow a particular section structure? Should it include headers? Format constraints ensure output matches your presentation needs. Example, present your response as 5 points with brief explanations for each. Tone constraints specify the communicative register. Should output be formal or conversational, technical or accessible, confident or hedged? Tone constraints ensure output matches the communicative context. Example, write in a formal but warm tone appropriate for a foundation cover letter. Content constraints specify what topics, elements, or information to include or exclude. Should certain points be emphasized? Should certain topics be avoided? Content constraints shape what the AI addresses. Example, focus specifically on community engagement and do not address budget considerations in this section. Style constraints specify voice, reading level, and terminology choices. Should output use first person or third person? What reading level? What terminology conventions? Style constraints ensure output matches stylistic requirements. Example, write at an 8th grade reading level, avoiding jargon and technical terminology. Crafting effective constraints requires balancing precision with practicality. These principles help you constrain productively. Be explicit about what you want and do not want rather than assuming the AI will guess correctly. If you want formal language, say so. If you want specific sections, list them. If you want certain topics avoided, name them. Explicitness enables compliance. Assumptions invite disappointment. Prioritize constraints that most affect output quality because not all constraints matter equally. Focus on constraints that address your most important requirements or that counter AI tendencies most problematic for your purposes. Essential constraints deserve more attention than nice-to-have constraints. Make constraints specific enough to be actionable so the AI can clearly determine compliance. Keep it concise is vague. Keep the response under 200 words is specific. The AI should be able to check whether it has satisfied each constraint. Vague constraints produce vague compliance. Balance constraint quantity with practicality because excessive constraints can confuse or conflict. A prompt with 20 constraints may produce worse results than one with 5 well-chosen constraints. Focus on constraints that matter most rather than trying to specify everything. Test and refine constraints based on results because you learn what works through experimentation. If certain constraints consistently produce good results, continue using them. If certain constraints cause problems, modify them. Your constraint library improves through iterative refinement. Certain constraints appear frequently in grant work. Knowing these common categories helps you remember to apply them when relevant. Word and character limits from application guidelines must be respected. If the needs statement has a 500-word limit, constrain AI output accordingly. Example, this needs statement must be between 450 and 500 words. Character limits sometimes apply to specific fields. Required elements that must be addressed often appear in funder guidelines. Applications may require specific sections, questions, or topics. Constrain AI to include these requirements. Example, the narrative must address significance, innovation, and approach as described in the funder guidelines I have provided. Terminology preferences or restrictions may apply in certain contexts. Funders may prefer person-first language. Communities may have preferred terms for self-description. Technical fields may require specific terminology. Example, use person-first language throughout and refer to the community as the funder prefers in their guidelines. Audience-appropriate reading level matters for proposals that address general audiences or that funders share with non-expert board members. Example, write at approximately a 9th grade reading level so that board members without technical expertise can follow the argument. Funder-specific formatting requirements sometimes appear in guidelines. Header styles, margin requirements, citation formats, and other specifications may apply. Example: follow the section structure specified in the guidelines with headers exactly as the funder names them. The three elements of effective prompting work together synergistically. Understanding how they combine helps you construct comprehensive prompts. Persona establishes who the AI should be, activating relevant knowledge patterns, communication styles, and priorities. The persona shapes the character of the response, determining what kind of voice and perspective the output will have. Context provides information the AI needs to tailor its response to your specific situation. Context ensures the persona operates with relevant knowledge about your organization, funder, program, and circumstances. Persona without context produces generic expert output. Persona with context produces tailored expert output. Constraints establish rules the AI should follow, ensuring output meets your specific requirements. Constraints prevent the AI from wandering in unhelpful directions and ensure compliance with format, length, and content specifications. Together, they produce focused, useful output that serves your actual purposes. The persona ensures appropriate expertise and tone. The context ensures relevance to your situation. The constraints ensure compliance with your requirements. All three contribute to output quality. Missing any element weakens overall results because each element addresses different aspects of output quality. Persona without context produces generic expert output. Context without constraints produces relevant but potentially misformatted output. All three elements without persona produces relevant, compliant output lacking appropriate voice. Complete prompts include all three elements. A complete prompt template incorporates all essential elements in a logical structure. This template provides a framework you can adapt for various purposes. Persona section establishes the role. You are a senior grant writer with extensive experience in health equity proposals who understands how foundations evaluate community impact. Be specific about the persona characteristics most relevant to your task. Context section provides necessary background. I am preparing a proposal for the Johnson Foundation, which prioritizes community-driven health initiatives in underserved rural areas. Our organization has served this community for 15 years and has strong relationships with community partners. Include context that shapes how the task should be approached. Task section specifies what you want. Review the following needs statement draft and identify areas where the community voice could be strengthened and where the connection between community needs and our proposed approach could be clearer. Be specific about what you want the AI to do. Constraints section establishes rules. Provide your feedback as 5 to 7 specific observations, each with a concrete suggestion for improvement. Focus on substantive issues rather than minor wording changes. Keep total response under 400 words. Make constraints specific and actionable. Output format section clarifies structure. Present each observation with a clear heading summarizing the issue, followed by a brief explanation and specific suggestion. Specify how you want the output organized. Complete prompts following this template consistently produce useful results. Effective AI use involves iterative refinement rather than expecting perfect results from single prompts. Understanding this iterative process helps you work more productively with AI. First prompts rarely produce perfect results because even well-constructed prompts may miss nuances or produce output that needs adjustment. Expecting perfection from initial prompts sets up frustration. Expecting useful starting points enables productive refinement. Review output and identify what needs adjustment by reading critically. What worked well? What missed the mark? What would improve the output? Critical review guides refinement. Accepting first drafts uncritically wastes AI's potential for iteration. Refine context and constraints based on results when initial output reveals gaps. If the output was too formal, add a tone constraint. If it missed important context, add that context. Results teach you what your prompts need. Follow up with additional prompts that build on initial output. You might ask the AI to expand a section, address a missed element, adjust tone, or revise based on your feedback. Follow-up prompts treat the initial output as a starting point for refinement. Treat AI interaction as conversation rather than single query because this mindset produces better results. Conversations involve back and forth clarification and refinement. Single queries expect everything from one prompt. The conversational approach is more realistic and more productive. Recognizing common prompting mistakes helps you avoid them. These patterns frequently undermine prompt effectiveness. Too vague prompts provide insufficient specificity to guide AI toward useful output. Help me with my grant leaves the AI guessing about what help means, what grant is involved, and what would be useful. Vagueness produces generic, often unhelpful responses. Too brief prompts omit context or constraints that would improve output. Brief prompts may seem efficient but often require extensive revision or follow-up. Investing time in comprehensive initial prompts typically saves time overall. Conflicting instructions give the AI contradictory guidance. Be concise but thorough, or be formal but conversational creates confusion. The AI cannot satisfy contradictory requirements. Review constraints for consistency before submitting prompts. Overloading puts too many requirements in a single prompt. Extremely complex prompts with dozens of constraints may overwhelm the AI or produce output that partially addresses many requirements without fully addressing any. Consider breaking complex requests into sequential prompts. Forgetting verification treats AI output as final product. No matter how well you prompt, AI output requires review and verification. Output may contain errors, hallucinations, or misalignments that only human review catches. Verification is always necessary regardless of prompt quality. Avoiding these mistakes significantly improves AI results. This case study demonstrates building a complete prompt using all elements we have discussed. The scenario involves drafting a sustainability section for a foundation proposal. Starting point: you need to draft the sustainability section explaining how your program will continue after grant funding ends. A basic prompt might be, write a sustainability section for my grant proposal. This vague prompt would produce generic output. Adding persona: you are a senior grant writer with 15 years of experience writing successful foundation proposals who understands how funders evaluate long-term organizational commitment. This persona activates relevant expertise and perspective. Adding context: I am writing a proposal to the Anderson Foundation for a 2-year, $150,000 grant to support our youth mentoring program. Our organization has a $12 million annual budget, diversified funding including government contracts, individual donors, and corporate sponsors. We have sustained previous grant-funded programs successfully. This context enables tailored response. Adding constraints: the sustainability section must be approximately 300 words. It must address financial sustainability, organizational capacity, and community integration. Use a confident but realistic tone that acknowledges challenges while expressing genuine commitment. Do not make promises we cannot keep. These constraints bound the output appropriately. The resulting comprehensive prompt combines all elements into a single well-structured request that will produce useful targeted output. The AI now has everything it needs to draft an effective sustainability section. Today's lesson added context and constraint techniques to your prompting toolkit. Combined with personas from our previous lesson, you now have a complete framework for constructing effective prompts. The rhetorical prompting method structures effective prompts around 5 questions. Who are you? What are you writing? Who is the audience? What is the goal? And what are the rules? Addressing these questions systematically produces comprehensive prompts that guide AI toward useful output. Context provides information AI needs to tailor responses to your specific situation. Task context, organizational context, funder context, content context, and situational context all contribute to output relevance. Rich context enables tailored rather than generic responses. Constraints establish rules that ensure output quality meets your requirements. Length, format, tone, content, and style constraints all shape AI output. Explicit constraints prevent common AI tendencies that would produce less useful results. Combining persona, context, and constraints produces the best results because each element addresses different aspects of output quality. Persona shapes voice and expertise. Context enables relevance. Constraints ensure compliance. Missing any element weakens results. In our next lesson, we explore iteration and chain of thought techniques. Iteration helps you refine AI output through multi-turn conversation. Chain of thought prompting breaks complex tasks into manageable steps. These techniques further expand your AI capabilities. Thank you for engaging with these essential prompt engineering techniques.